reward them with your boundless mercy, then anything could be possible. In this way, you might be entertained. In what manner can they be made to understand the knowledge of transcendental devotional service? O Lord, please display your mercy so that I may able to bring them under your influence. All the divinities that come under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and they can also be released from the clutches that are loosed by your will. Therefore, if you so wish for them to be delivered, then they will assuredly be able to comprehend your message. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your direct incarnation. If a sober person listens to it repeatedly with submissive oral reception, then they become liberated from the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will be dispelled. What should I do to help them understand this message of Bhagavatam? I am seeking your benedictions, so that I can convince them, for I am very tiny, fallen, and unqualified. I have no power to do so on my own. In spite of my shortcomings, O Lord, you have somehow or other brought me here to speak about you. Now it is up to you, my Lord, to do with me as you like. O spiritual master of the world, you have the power to enhance my words and make them suitable for everyone's understanding. When you show me your boundless mercy, then my words will become pure. By thus hearing your transcendental message, all the people's lamentation and miserable conditions of life will certainly be dispelled. If you have brought me here to dance, O Lord, then make me dance, make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like, just like a wooden puppet in your hand. O Lord, make me dance as you like. Although I have no devotion, bhakti, nor any knowledge, Vedanta, still I have unduly been honored with the holy title of Bhakti Vedanta. Now, if you like, O Lord, you can fulfill the good words. Purport of Bhakti Vedanta. Prabhupada ki This is the day that we observe to honor the Guru. Vyasa-puja is his birthday. We're not impersonalists. Everybody else, they go and worship their gurus on Guru Purnima. Last month. Guru Purnima is actually the disappearance day of Srila Sanatana Goswami. And this Muriya Purnima, this festival, was originally designated to celebrate his disappearance. But now everybody goes to their villages and they worship their Guru all on the same day. And sometimes we hear, we also heard from our own acharyas in Bhaktisiddhanta and Prabhupada, the Guru is a principle. But actually, we shouldn't be impersonalists. We should understand the position of Guru and our relationship with our Guru in the proper Vaishnava personal way. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he offers his Guru Vaishnava. But he didn't write just one Guru Vaishnava. Not just a generic Guru Vaishnava that can be offered in any Guru, as if there was no difference. He also wrote several others. He wrote another Guru Vaishnava to his own Guru, and to his Param Guru, and to his Param Param Guru, and to Lokanath Das Goswami, and to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, each of them individually.
Anyway, in the Gurvashtra that we sing every day, in the 7th verse, the reason is given why we should worship the Guru as good as God. Sakshad Varipena Samasta Shastre Uktas Tata Bhavyata Eva Sadvi. So all these revealed scriptures, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Upanishads, all the Vedic corollaries, they declare that the Guru is directly God. Sakshat Haridvena. Uktastata bhavyata eva sadvihi. And reliable spiritual authorities, great saints, rishis, brahmanas, they also corroborate this. This is also their opinion. Sakshat Haridvena. He's as good as God. But we don't, and certainly Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur does not accept the Mayavadi opinion. He qualifies. Guru is not literally God. Guru is Jiva. He is servant of God. He is representative of God. This is different. Kintu. The word kintu means but. But means it's not what you think it is something different. Guru is not literally God. Kintu prabhora, yapriya eva tasya. He is the dearmost servant of God. This is something special. So many people want to serve God directly without a guru. They may take some initiation, but they're not interested in they take the initiation, the diksha, but they don't care for guidance, for instruction. They think out of their own head and their own dirty heart. They can find and serve God and manifest love of God. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would travel preaching all over India. And when he met anybody who claimed to be an advanced Vaishnava, he would ask him a simple question. Under whose guidance are you executing, are you practicing the worship of Krishna? And if the person replied, I'm not following anybody's guidance, I'm just serving Krishna directly on my own, he would refuse to take that person seriously. If you're not serving Krishna under the guidance of a spiritual master, then you cannot be taken seriously. The empowered representative of Krishna, that's the reason that we serve Him, that we worship Him, and that we dedicate our lives to His service. Not lying to Mayavadi opinion. It's popular prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwaraha, Guru Brahma Param Sakshat, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I think this is from Shankaracharya's Guru Stotra. The Guru is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. He's the absolute truth, and therefore I worship Him. We don't accept that. We don't sing that prayer. Because we're not worshiping the Guru as God, but as God's servant. And practically that means he is the representative of the Parampara, of Vaishnavacharyas. We're following the Parampara from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada, ideal representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya. We have a guru about this in particular. Our Sampradaya, the mood of our Sampradaya, the philosophy, the sadhana, were established by Srila Rupa Goswami. Why do we accept him as authority? The prayer is there. Shri Chaitanya Mano Ishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami offer me a place at his lotus feet? Let me become his servant. Actually, the word is Swayambhuva. Rupa, his name is Rupa, but the poetic description here is that he is non-different. He's the equivalent form of Mahaprabhu himself, because he's direct, perfect representative. Why? On what strength? Sri Chaitanya Namo. He understood the inner heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He understood the intentions, the mission, the desire of Lord Chaitanya. And he was empowered directly by Lord Chaitanya to establish that mission in the modern world. That's Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. He's the original Prabhupada. I guess Sanatana Goswami was Prabhupada first. Second Prabhupada. Prabhupada is a direct representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he, more than any, well, first of all, it said that Sarup Damodar understood the inner heart of Mahaprabhu more than anyone else. Then Sanatana and Rupa. The Sarup Damodar, he was not given the mission of preaching. Rupa and Sanatana were. So Rupa Goswami in particular, especially through the books that he wrote, established the preaching mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he had the power to do it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him personal instruction. And then he gave him the blessing, the empowerment to give Krishna consciousness to the world. And he was able to understand the inner heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So our founder Acharya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he was given the title Prabhupada by his own disciples, not by his godfathers. Bhaktivedanta he got from his godfather. The title Prabhupada, we asked him. Do you know who we asked Prabhupada? One of Prabhupada's disciples, a few of them asked Prabhupada, can we call you Prabhupada? He looked at Swamiji before. And he accepted. He agreed. Although he wasn't a person looking for glorification of himself. He didn't have on his business card all this little bodies, all his degrees and everything. So he's not even looking for a title. But it was natural. Srila Prabhupada also is a direct, empowered representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Direct representative of Rupa Goswami, who also, like no one else in our time, understands the inner heart, the intentions and the mission, the plans of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we see that Prabhupada was empowered to carry out those plans, to implement them. Kali Kali Dharma Nam Sankirtana Krishna Shakti Vina Nohita Pravarta. In this age, modern age, the religious principle is Harinam Sankirtana. There is no other Dharma. And nobody can be empowered. No one can effectively establish the Harinam Sankirtana movement unless he's specially empowered by Krishna. Krishna Shakti Vina. So we have so much ample evidence that Prabhupada was very powerfully, that he was empowered to establish Rupa Goswami's mission in a very practical way in the modern world. If he wasn't empowered by Krishna, how could he be made so many Vaishnavas in the Western world, where no one knew anything about Krishna, where no one knew anything about civilized culture, not behaving like a human being? And he turned people all over the world into Vaishnava Brahmanas. Without Krishna Shakti, this is not possible. So therefore, Prabhupada had every justification for accepting that title, for accepting the title of Prabhupada. Just as Rupa Goswami understood the inner mission, so did our Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, we're very fortunate to be able to be serving in His mission, to be able to be sitting here today, saying a few words to honor Him. All of us should please come forward and say something, our realization. We're here, we're sitting here, because Prabhupada has given us Krishna consciousness. He's empowered us to be able to understand the absolute truth in its most intimate form, and to begin our development in love of Krishna. Prabhupada has given us that empowerment. So every one of us has the power to come here and say something. Our own realizations about Prabhupada's words. So I hope they can remember before everybody should get a chance to speak. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada.
Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane, Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharani, Nirvisheshi, Shunyavadi Paschatra Deshitarani. Recently, I read a very wonderful description of the glories of Srila Prabhupada in a book written by his disciple Shivaram Swami. The book is called Venu Gita, and I believe this description is in a short chapter called Krishna's Friend the Cloud. He describes that there was one disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur who was very much respected. His name was Govinda Ratna. And at that time, Raghunath Das Goswami was very young, and he took shelter of Govinda Ratna as one of his Shiksha gurus. And so Govinda Ratna was describing to Raghunath Das about the different commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, namely the commentaries of Sridhar Swami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, and his own guru, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And after hearing these explanations, Raghunath Das inquired, is there any other commentary that I should know about? And Govinda Ratna explained how I have explained to you the main commentaries in our line, but since you have asked, I can tell you something very confidential. I had a dream about a commentary that will be given in the future by a very intimate associate of Lord Gauranga. I was wondering if this dream was a product of my mind or if it was actual truth. So I inquired from my spiritual master, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and he explained, yes, what you have dreamt is real. In the future, there will be an unsurpassed commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. It will be given in the language of the Malechas, and it will be interwoven with the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. And this very intimate disciple, or this very intimate devotee of Lord Gauranga will travel around the world in metal vimanas. And he will speak into a metal box. And by his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, he will convert many sinful people from the West, all the Malechas, into Vaishnavas. And we can be very happy that Lord Gauranga's message will be fulfilled when this personality comes. So from this we can understand Srila Prabhupada's greatness. He is a very intimate associate of the Supreme Lord. Despite being such an exalted personality, he has the utmost humility. In a prayer that he wrote on September 13th, 1965, aboard the Jaladuta, in the fourth stanza, he writes that my Guru Maharaj has given me this mission, but I am unworthy and unfit to carry it out. I am very insignificant and most fallen. Therefore, he's begging the Lord to empower him. So Srila Prabhupada always had a way of making us humble too. I remember my first encounter with Srila Prabhupada's Vapu was in 1975. I joined the movement in 1974, and at that time it wasn't so easy to get close to Srila Prabhupada because many devotees were joining at that time. He came to Miami, and we had been practically not sleeping for 3 days. He had an uninitiated brahmachari, and we were painting all the buildings in preparations for Srila Prabhupada. And he would give Bhagavad Gita class in the evening under a banyan tree that we had on our property. So I was sitting there and was wondering how I would be able to stay awake during his class, having only slept a few hours in the last 3 nights. So I was sitting there thinking, and I was able to stay awake, and I was thinking maybe kind of a little proud maybe. And so then I closed my eyes, starting to fall asleep, and I opened them quickly, and Srila Prabhupada was looking right at me. So I remember Srila Prabhupada was extremely merciful. In 1975, I went to Philadelphia, Rath Yatra, and the temple at that time was a house. So one time he was leaving the temple room after Bhagavatam class, and one uninitiated devotee was offering dandavats in front of the doorway. He took up the whole space, so Prabhupada could not pass through the doorway. And he was taking a very long time to offer his obeisances. And the sannyasis were like they're ready to physically remove him with their dandas, you know. And Srila Prabhupada held them back, and he allowed this devotee to continue. And finally the devotee finished and said something. I later found out who this devotee was. He moved to Alachua, and he told me some other stories about he was always scheming to get close to Srila Prabhupada. At that same Philadelphia Rath Yatra, when Srila Prabhupada was there, all of his guards were wearing these black armbands. So somehow or other he got a hold of one of those black armbands, and he walked up towards Srila Prabhupada's room. And just as he got near the room, Srila Prabhupada came out, and everyone offered obeisances. So he got up real quickly, and he picked up Srila Prabhupada's briefcase and said, "Right this way, Srila Prabhupada." And he escorted Srila Prabhupada to the temple room. And when Srila Prabhupada, this is as he explained it to me, when Srila Prabhupada offered his obeisances, he put his head right on Srila Prabhupada's feet. And at that time it was quite a bold thing to do. And Srila Prabhupada just turned around and looked at him, and he said, "I'm just trying to get your mercy, Srila Prabhupada." And Srila Prabhupada accepted. So Srila Prabhupada's mercy is, Srila Prabhupada is indeed Patita Pavana. He's extremely merciful. In my own life also, especially within the last several months, Srila Prabhupada has just showered me with his mercy, and I feel ever grateful. And I joined in 1974, and I lived in Miami as a community member, in the ashram, following strictly the program. In 1988, I moved to Alachua, Florida. And at that time, they didn't have much facility on the farm. Still, they don't. Most devotees there are congregational members. So I also became a congregational member, and within a short time, I found myself working very hard just to maintain a household. And this is not very, I'm sitting here to glorify Srila Prabhupada, not myself, so maybe it's a little shameful to admit, but you know, I slipped in my sadhana, and for many years I wasn't really a very strict devotee. I didn't do much significant service for Srila Prabhupada's movement. But then after some years, I realized how much I was suffering and wanted again to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. So I began praying intensely, and within the last several months, Srila Prabhupada has arranged a nice service for me in Sri Mayapur, and in so many ways he has indicated to me that my mercy is still there, it's available, all you have to do is want it. So, as Srila Prabhupada explained in this morning's Bhagavatam class, the execution of sadhana bhakti is a razor's edge. So there's always some chance that one may slip, one may cut himself, but one should never be discouraged. And one should never undervalue the potency of prayer to Srila Prabhupada. Everyone can pray to Srila Prabhupada. Once he was asked by his disciple, I don't know who it was, but can we pray to Bhakti Siddhanta? And Srila Prabhupada said yes. Sometimes the grandfather is actually more merciful than the father. So, you know, as we know in the mundane relationships, the grandfather, he will never chastise. If the grandchild is asking something, he is always giving. So in this way, the grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada should feel this connection and also pray to Srila Prabhupada for his mercy, and in this way receive it. So on this very auspicious day, in this most sacred places of Sri Vrindavan Dham, I pray to Srila Prabhupada that please protect me from my material and sinful desires, and please give me pure devotion unto your lotus feet. Thank you very much.
If you like to see Srila Prabhupada, was, as is the case of most of our devotees, was through one of his disciples, one of his followers. As some devotees came to the town where I was living and informed us that there was going to be a big Rath Yatra festival in London. And I lived quite away from there. So myself and a few other friends, we gathered ourselves together and we made the long trip to attend the Rath Yatra, not knowing a great deal about what it was. When we arrived there, we joined in the festival, which was very ecstatic, and it had been advertised that Prabhupada was going to attend. But unfortunately, the last few days, something else cropped up, and Prabhupada wasn't actually personally able to attend. So my first recollection, or my first sighting or experience directly of Prabhupada, was just to see his Vyasa-puja. And I found it quite intriguing to see, in London, the Rath Yatra is held in Trafalgar Square, which is a monument to a British soldier with a very high column. And it's got a plinth. And on top of the plinth was Prabhupada's Vyasa-puja. It was very grand. Nice crimson red colour with peacocks and gold, and a palanquin covering and hanging down like that. So it was very exotic and very mindful of everything we sort of associated with India and spirituality. And we were thinking at the time that what is it particularly that we can see a personality who can sit in such a chair, because often we associate spiritual life with being humble. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said that we should be very tolerant, like a blade of grass, see ourselves as very insignificant, unimportant, you know, practically nothing. One can go on in this mood, if you like, of self-deprecation to the point where one sees one as totally insignificant. So Prabhupada's Vyasa-puja seemed very grand. And at that time, this was in 1970, I think, At that time, there were a number of teachers, so-called teachers, coming from India to the West, teaching various types of so-called spirituality, giving knowledge, supposedly from the Vedas, to bring one to enlightenment, to fulfill one's desires, to become God, or whatever it was they were particularly teaching. So the difference, it turns out, was although Prabhupada was given enormous amount of respect and love and devotion by his followers and a high seat, the difference was, and Prabhupada himself pointed out, that human beings generally have 4 defects. They commit mistakes, they're illusioned, they have a tendency to cheat, and they have imperfect senses. So why a human being? Why are we worshipping a human being? Why so much fanfare, so much glorification, so much devotion to a human being? Surely God is all pure. Surely God is not in any way affected by the material world. He is all powerful. Why are we not directly approaching God? So Prabhupada, if you like, he implemented this concept of the Supreme Personality of service to Godhead. In other words, you can become, if you, not that you desire, but it is possible for the jiva, the ordinary living being, who lives in various bodies, but particularly in a human body, such a personality can in fact rise to a level of greatness or divinity, but at the same time maintain his own individuality. So this is, of course, the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Achincha Chittveda Tattva, where the living entity is both simultaneously one with God and is also different from God. He's one with God inasmuch as he has the same constitution. He's made of the same things. He comes from the same place. But he's different from God because he's infinitesimally gifted with this. So, of course, the tendency, if something is very, very small, it can become covered. So for all the conditioned souls that were assembled there and right throughout the world, Prabhupada was able to demonstrate in his own life and his own teachings that although insignificant and very small, and yes, you have an element of divinity within you, it is quite possible to become properly situated and therefore glorious. And as, if you like, Prabhupada often uses the expression, as good as God. And it appealed to our sense of understanding because Prabhupada did go on to use the example of in a big man's house, in the king's house, in the house of a lord. You have a big mansion and many facilities beyond our imagination in some cases. If ever you go touring here and there, you can often find massive houses where people have incredible amounts of wealth and living total grandeur. Now this is the concept, of course, that we have of the Almighty, that he is full of all opulence, full of all power. We know his name, Krishna is known as Bhagavan, so he's full of all this power and strength and beauty. And he has it all to him. Seems sometimes he has it all to himself. But this is not what Krishna's business is about, keeping everything for his own enjoyment. One, by the mercy of the spiritual master, learns that his true position is a servant. So Prabhupada became, if you like, famous for teaching service to Krishna, teaching devotion, teaching bhakti, and not with the intention, yes, I will perform some devotion, I will perform some ritual, I will wave some incense, I will sing some mantras with some devotion, but ultimately, when I've achieved this devotion, through this devotion, I will then also be able to become the Supreme. Prabhupada never in any way taught this message. He's always taught his disciples through his teachings, through his example, and here in Vrindavan where everything was started, that you're simply the servant. And Prabhupada himself was the best of servants, the servant of the greatest servant. The best servant is one who is loyal, loyal, faithful, and thinking in advance even of what his master wants. He's not thinking he wants anything for himself. My position is simply to please you. And this is the devotion, the level of devotion that Prabhupada taught. So although he went all throughout the world, he showed the importance of having a guru. Not that we say that the guru is God or the guru is some personality who can make everything happen. No, the guru is the person, the spiritual master, and particularly Srila Prabhupada is the loyal son of Krishna. He spent many years, in fact he spent his whole life in Vrindavan. And then his objective in life was to go around the whole planet, around the whole universe if there were means, and take Vrindavan there. And what does it mean to take Vrindavan everywhere? It means to take the Lord who is within your heart and to encourage you to engage in devotional service. That's all. It was a very simple message. And Prabhupada made it very pleasant for us also, so it wasn't too difficult. Prabhupada said, yes, there's some little austerity involved, you have to forgo some things, but the pleasure derived is very sweet. And therefore, devotees were always very happy to see Srila Prabhupada, as they still are, and hopefully will always remain happy to serve him, to render some service, no matter how simple. Even Krishna himself says, offer him with love, a leaf or a flower or a fruit, some water, it will be accepted. So this is the exchange that Prabhupada has encouraged. So that was my first, if you like, experience with Prabhupada, was just seeing the Vyasa-sana and forcing me to think about who is such a person that would sit here. And the actual time I saw Prabhupada was 1 year later when he came to London. And he came from Los Angeles, which is quite an exotic place compared to London. And in London, we don't get very exotic flowers. You get roses and things. And I remember when Prabhupada arrived there, the devotees had made some garlands from gardenia flowers. And of course, we had so many, I don't know, preconceived ideas of what Prabhupada would look like, how he would walk, just to see him, because we didn't come that frequently, maybe once a year, and I'd been serving in the temple for about a year before actually seeing him. And so when he arrived, and he alighted from the vehicle, you saw Prabhupada in his golden skin and his silk cloth, and he was carrying a stick at that time also. But he also had this beautiful garland of gardenia flowers, and that was the first time I smelt the fragrance. So I always thought, that's what Prabhupada smelled like. I mean, he looked good and he dressed well, and he also had this wonderful fragrance coming from his body. And that's actually a fact. And I always thought that we smell, when Prabhupada comes, the senses are also satisfied, just like more than satisfied, because all your senses are pleased. You get to hear, which is the most important thing, but it is also nice to see, nice to be close, because you could watch Prabhupada sometimes just doing simple things like eating or walking. It was quite a pleasure to see. Everybody would try and, walk like Prabhupada, and even some devotees started to even try and talk like Prabhupada, and talk like that a little bit. So you'd have Western guys talking a bit like Bengali English. But Prabhupada, when he visited the temples, of course, he must have always had the smell of fresh paint. Because as that devotee was saying, in every temple, Prabhupada is coming, must fix everything up. And it was usually, 10 minutes before he arrived, the finishing touches were being done. So I'm quite sure that wherever Prabhupada went, the first fragrance would be either the incense being offered or the cooking, but, the fragrance of fresh paint. So I feel very fortunate to be here in Vrindavan, which is Prabhupada's place. This is his original address. He established this wonderful temple back in, 1975, is it? And it's wonderful to see that, there's still so many visitors coming. The deities look spectacularly beautiful. His devotees are all still here. And that his movement is flourishing. So we should all take gratitude in that and be encouraged to push on and carry on his mission. And his mission is simple, just be Krishna conscious yourself as much as you can and try and impart that to others. And he's pleased by that. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Vande Shri Gurun Dinatayanam Om Jnana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी विश्वात्तरिष्ठितारिणे। Who am I? One among thousands. Nothing special. With a body ravaged by old age and countless diseases, flickering mind. But in my heart, one hope is burning bright, that I am Prabhupada's daughter. And where he is, there I must go. And what he commands, that I must do. My only solace in his absence is hearing his voice chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or defeating the Mayavadis, or explaining Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. How you are not this body, and if you think you're this body, you're a rascal. As Prabhupada's daughter, I inherit his legacy, and I pray to preserve and carry it to the next generation. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Would you like to thank Narayan nice offering?
Om Ajnana-Chivirandasya Jnanam-Jana-Sharakaya Chakshurun-Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya-Manovistam Startam Jena Bhutale Swami-Rupa-Kadama-Yam-Vadachi Swami. Namo Vishnu-Padaya Krishna-Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami-Nityanande. Namaste Sarasvati-Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyacharya Shatari Vanchakalpataruvasa Tripasindrubhya Yavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, I could spend some years here in Vrindavan in the 90s, the last decade. And it was very important for me, for my spiritual life, and I have so many experiences and realizations. One realization that I had was that when I came back to the preaching field, again with the mood of preaching, I could realize the importance of the role of Srila Prabhupada. My realization is that no one can give Krishna to people. Only Srila Prabhupada can really give Krishna. For those people who does not know Krishna at all, no idea about Krishna, but Srila Prabhupada has this potency to give Krishna, to introduce Krishna in the heart of people. We can help Srila Prabhupada in this task. And he goes to the people and presents Srila Prabhupada. This Srila Prabhupada, you must read this book, like that. And then Prabhupada does the task. This is my realization. Because as the Shastra says, Dharmasya tatam guhayam nihitam guhayam mahajana jena gatasapam. And the Krishna is in the heart, the Dharma is in the heart of the pure devotee. He's the repository of the Tattva. The Tattva is there, the Dharma is there. And then he can give this to the people. And then we follow. Mahajana Jena Gathasavanta. We follow this Mahajana. Srila Prabhupada is the Mahajana. He is a great Mahajana in this world. Because you see, Bhagavad Gita as it is, the most popular and most known translation and commentary of Bhagavad Gita. And in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada is giving Krishna to you, distributing Krishna. And also, Srila Prabhupada has the potence to destroy the bad habits of the people. I say from my own experience. And then Srila Prabhupada can tell to anyone, any person in this world, you just now, you have to avoid these bad habits and to get this saintly life like that. Srila Prabhupada can do this. This is my realization. And then we pray to Srila Prabhupada to be one of his agents to spread this Krishna consciousness to people. And just let Srila Prabhupada to preach to people. This is our mission. We have to organize the programs. You have to help people how to manage their own spiritual life, but who is giving Krishna and putting Krishna in the heart is Srila Prabhupada. This is my realization. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
It seems to be common that on one's birthday one gives in charity to others. So it seems that Krishna, on the celebration of his birthday, decided to give in charity to the world. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Because of Srila Prabhupada's preaching all over the world, so many Westerners that would have had absolutely no chance otherwise could have the opportunity to hear about Braj, to hear about Rupa Goswami, to hear about serving in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, serving Sri Radha and Krishna. Without Prabhupada's mercy, this would not have been possible for those from the West. So our gratitude towards him is unlimited and eternal. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Sri Gurave Namaha. Vakam Garoti Vachanam Bhangam Langayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Sri Gurundanataranam Amso Bhagavatosmi Ham Saradasosmi Savatra Yati Papekshiko Nicham Tat Presta Sarkaromi Swamrara Samakasam Satam Sakasanganavasanam Kamaham Satatam Vande Madhavashaya Vigraham Bhakti Siddhanta Sishaya Bhakti Vedanta Namine Prasannaya Prasantaya Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Srila Prabhupada for me even being here and for the association of the Vaishnavas, and offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada always said, you don't know a fool until he opens his mouth. So now the realization is probably going to be years. You're looking at one. But at least it's taken many years to realize they were a fool. Because unless there's that realization they were a fool, how can we learn anything? How can we take His mercy? Because out there in the world, we thought we knew so much. We thought we'd done so much. We thought we were so accomplished in so many crazy things, useless, worthless things. I know personally, here we go, we're going to talk about me again, folks. If you fall asleep, I don't blame you. But then, even before coming to Krishna consciousness, my interest in just even being around, couldn't be bothered with anything, reading anything, being involved in life. And then just one time, I didn't even bother watching television much because it was just such a waste of time, you know. You knew what was coming next, you know. It was always... But one evening, for some reason I watched the news. And that was the thing, I never used to do it. I've done it more since I joined the movement, I have to admit. Watching the news on the, you know, hearing it. But there was Prabhupada on the news. Just at the end. And to be honest, I can't even understand a word he said. His voice was so thick and so deep. But I was just thinking, wow, who's this? And something inside was just saying, you got to get to know who this is. You got to get to know. But I'd already received a magazine and seen the picture of Prabhupada. So after the news, I went looking for this magazine to see, is this the same person? Then somehow or another it clicked. Yeah, this is the same person. And just seeing him made an impression. So, what if I could get to meet this person? But then I thought, well, here am I, stuck in some tiny little place. You know, to use Prabhupada's expression, the dwarf touched the moon. I thought, but then by the mercy of the devotees, we met the devotees and got one of Prabhupada's books again. I thought, well, wait a minute, this is, in my own words at that time, this is the same guy, this same person. And then you read a little bit and I was thinking, well, wait a minute, he's putting into words what I'm trying to think about. I can't even get together to think about it properly, but he's putting it into simple words. And the one thing that caught me, that seemed to make a change in me, just one simple thing that Prabhupada said. We already have everything. We just have to learn to offer it to Krishna. And to me, that was very simple, but as Keshava Bharati Maharaj would say, very profound realization. That, yeah, everything's there. The thing that's missing is I just have to offer everything to Krishna. And how simple it was. That you just do simple things day to day. And not trying to be something. I've tried that in the movement as well. But simple for the simple, but complicated for the complicated. Or another way I thought of it was, you know, being so sinful hasn't made it simple, has it? So, I don't know, Dinabandhu Prabhu presented something which is very dear to me, only because I'm doing it, you know, I'm the doer. I'm the doer. But there's one other thing that for some reason hit me. Trying to get people to chant Hare Krishna. A lot of people do it nicely, but where we came from, or where we landed up in this world by our own stupidity, and they didn't seem very interested. And the way that they used to respond to the devotees, well, something came some years ago that, well, there's offences against Krishna's name, but there's no offence against Lord Gauranga's name. So we thought, well, let's try. And we found that asking people to say Gauranga, then they become electric. Of course, if you know the people in Scotland, most of them are electric in another way already, you know. But how easily they took to chanting Gauranga's name, it just become a big thing. And I was wondering, because a good few devotees said, this isn't what Prabhupada wanted. And I was thinking, oh no, it's me again. The guy that does what Prabhupada doesn't want, you know. But people were chanting and chanting and chanting, and I couldn't help but think, well, the holy name, no offences. If they keep going, then they'll take everything else. They'll take what Prabhupada wants. They'll take the holy name, they'll understand these books, and we're going to expect everyone just to take everything right away, or are they going to have to come up, come up, come up? And I had to look at myself and think, well, what did I understand in the beginning? It's taken me so many years to understand that I don't know anything. And I'm still thinking I know something. So we went about this whole campaign, as Dinabandhu Prabhu said. And well, I can't even remember when it started, somewhere about 1993 or 94, but it still carries on today. And when you mentioned Dayal Nitai, yeah, Dayal Nitai Prabhu, who's sitting at the back, he suggested that some years ago. We tried it, and it didn't work the same. It didn't work the same. We tried it, and it just didn't come off. We put up posters everywhere, and it didn't come off, but Gauranga, it's just happening everywhere. By Prabhupada's mercy, and it's come to the point where there's millions. And we thought we'd try another program, which has been going on for a few months. It's just internet, just Krishna conscious spam mail. Spamchi Ananda. Just putting out a call at Gauranga, be happy, Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. And just send out millions every week all over the world. And we get response back. What is it? What am I to do now? I've tried it, I like it. What do I do? Prabhupada's mercy, Gauranga. Because by Gauranga's mercy, we'll get Radhishyam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya. So, if it's not completely what Prabhupada wants, I beg forgiveness. But it was an easy way for a lazy guy, you know.